guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to be showing you some textures from outside and around the house. So I'll just be using a piece of black clay for this demonstration, and I'll be starting with some of the inside textures first. So I've got a piece of pasta over here, and there are many different types of pasta, of course. And if you look at each of them, they all have these different textures on them. So I've just got one at the moment, but try this out with many different types of pasta, as each of them have their own textures. And there's the one. So let me just see if I can get the lighting on that right. And there's the texture. So that's a really cool texture. And that's just me rolling it across. You could even take the edge of the pasta and use that for texture. I mean, that makes a really cool leaf shape. So that's just that piece of pasta. Just roll this through the pasta machine quickly so we can use it again. Then we have a toothbrush. Just got an old toothbrush here. And you could use it to texture your piece by stamping it. You could also draw it across your piece like that. You could use the side as well. And that creates a very subtle texture. So that's a toothbrush. And lids and caps work really well. So here are two different caps I've got. So you can see this one's got a finer texture than this one. And you can use that across your piece. And the lid will work really well as well. There we go. And that creates some really interesting texture as well. So let me see if I can direct the light properly so you can see it better. But that's also a really cool texture. And all of these are just textures I found around the house. It's meant to give you some ideas. So depending on where you live, you're going to get different shaped bottle caps and different textures on your bottle caps. And even kids' toys will work. So here I've got a little plastic dinosaur from one of my sisters. And you can see that it has these cool scales. So if you press your clay against it, you can get this cool dinosaur scale. So I'll just press it all the way around. And then lift it up. Then you can see you get this really cool texture. And you can even just press it in. So that's cool. So go have a look at some, if you have kids, go look at their plastic toys, see if you can find some cool textures. You'll never know what you find, what you can find. Okay. And then whenever you go to the shops, I'm not sure if you get them there, but whenever I go to the shops and I find that sometimes the fruits like pawpaw have these nets around them. And they are really cool for texture. So just press that in. And I'll just get my acrylic roller. And then roll it across. And you get this really fine netted look. So that's really cool as well. And depending on where you look and what you can find, there'll be different types of nets. So let me just bring over another one I've got here. So here's another one, and this was a different fruit. Can't quite remember. Had these for quite a while. So I'll just stretch that out over the polymer clay. Press it in. Whoops, sorry about that. Then roll it over. And then you get this kind of fishnet look. So keep a lookout for those. You never ever know when you might come across a really cool texture, so just keep your eye out for it. And even ropes can work. So here's a piece of rope I've got. And I'll just roll that across. And that creates a really cool texture. So those are my around the house ones. And Just keep a lookout for baskets as well. Here's a little wicker one I have. And that can create some texture as well. Okay, and now I find that the best texture is actually found outside. So here's just a pebble I have. Now this one I haven't cleaned off yet because I wanted to show you that sometimes these pebbles have sand on them. So unless you want the sand there, just make sure that you've cleaned off your pebble beforehand. But as you can see, it creates this really cool texture. Okay, and shells also, they're really nice. Just press that one in. See, that has quite a cool texture there. And sea urchins, just roll that across. The only problem with the sea urchins though is they're quite delicate, so you have to be careful when you use them. But they create this really nice texture. And if you don't live near the beach, sometimes if you look around in the trees you can find these cool pine cone like things. Well, I know this isn't a pine cone, but it's a seed or a pod for the seeds. And they create some interesting textures as well. And pine cones are cool as well, so here's an unopened one I have. And I'll just roll that across. You get that texture. And the open ones also give the texture, but they're a little different. There you go, and that gives a more random texture. And feathers also work really well. So here's a feather I have. And I'll just press that in and roll across. Feathers can be a little fiddly, but they give a really nice fine texture. So I hope the camera can pick that up. Okay, and if you make your own jewellery, you can also just go have a look through your findings pot as well, and maybe some of your scrap jewellery pot. So here's a piece of chainmail that don't really work, and I like to use that for texture now, as it creates this really cool texture. So chainmail works really nicely. And even your finding spots. So I've got a pot here where I have some of my spaces. Just take out a few. And most of these I actually got off of eBay. And I'll just take out a few to show you what it looks like. I'll just press that one in. And that gives a cool knotted look. This one I can roll across the clay. And it gives kind of a ropey finish. This one I can also roll. And that gives a ribbon look. So depending on what spaces you have, you're going to get a different look for each of them. Put those aside. And bead caps are also really cool. So here's some more silver ones I have. And I'll just take out a few of these. Show you what they look like. And I'll just roll this through quickly. And this is really just to give you some inspiration. It's not really a tutorial, it's just a look around the house and give you some ideas and where you could look. I like the bead caps. So there's that give a really interesting texture. And then your kitchen is also a really good place to look. So I forgot to mention these before, but look on your cutlery. Sometimes you can have a really interesting pattern on the ends of your cutlery. So this one I'll just press in. There you go. It gives you a cool indent. And also, sometimes when your food comes in, the pieces that you don't use, like I have a piece of coconut shell over here. We usually throw away the coconut shell because we can't eat it. But when I press that in, it gives me this really cool organic look. And you get a different texture depending on which side you press in. So if you guys eat avocados, maybe oranges, lemons, those peelings that you throw away, you can use them to a certain extent. Well, use them the day you open them, and then throw them away because they will go old unless it's a shell. But even those you can go and use. So those are all the textures that I have, but I mean, I just went around the house for a few minutes and looked for a few textures, and this is what I found. And so you can see that there's just so many ideas that you can get. And really, just go around your house and see what you can find. And even if it looks and sounds completely absurd, try it. It might work. I mean, I really like these bottle caps, but they sounded a little bit strange. So just go and play around and see what you can find. Look in every place you can. There'll be textures everywhere, and you might be surprised with what you find. So I do hope that this tutorial was helpful to you, and if it was, please do check the links below, as there'll be links to more tutorials like this one. And as always, please do visit my website, Jessama Tutorials, because I have places where you can send in pictures, articles. I release tutorials early there as well, so you can get tutorials up to 2 weeks before they're actually released on YouTube, so be sure to check that out. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.